Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down Oklahoma. The Sooners go to camp here in about 3 weeks. Don't have an exact date. We got Jason Ray on the line from Last Word on College Football. If you like the content, then just hit the like button. And also, if you enjoy the content, then others will as well. So share the videos out on social media. If you subscribe here, hit that bell for the notifications. That way you know when we're going live. Wide receivers, always a constant at Oklahoma, although the group last year wasn't stellar, wasn't vintage, but still capable, of course. Charleston Rambo, after 43 catches in 25 the last 2 years, moves on to Miami. And I see three just top-rate wide receivers in this 21 class headed up by Mario Williams. So how does that group look for this fall?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will think that Oklahoma, struggled a little bit, to your point, from the receiver perspective. I think, there was a little bit of a drop-off from CeeDee Lamb to, Charleston Rambo looked to be kind of the heir apparent there, being the number one wide receiver. Struggled a little bit at the offset, really is not a number one guy. I think him going to Miami will be certainly a good fit for him in that offense with D'Eriq King and Rhett Lashlee kind of running the show. So I think that's a good fit for him. But, looking at Oklahoma coming back, they have about 7 or 8 guys who, really could compete legitimately. I think you got a couple of freshmen, Billy Bowman and Mario Williams are guys that have the opportunity to play early on. Billy Bowman's probably a little bit more ready. You most certainly is probably going to see him from a kick returner, punt returner perspective. He's probably one of the most electric athletes that Oklahoma has got at that position, really, from a returner, maybe a wide receiver sweep, end around type situation from time to time. Maybe since Antonio Perkins, and that kind of dates back to quite a ways to see Oklahoma, how an electric returner that they've got there. So, it remains to be seen, in terms of the wide receiver depth, how far he'll get. But I think, Oklahoma has a few returning guys that, hopefully you would like to see them step up a little bit, and maybe being healthy and off suspension will help. Jaden Hazelwood had an ACL injury in the spring last year, was really limited, came back and played in a couple of games, only a handful of catches, set out the Cotton Bowl because he really didn't feel like he was ready physically to play. He'll be ready here in the spring. Trajan Bridges, who came off of almost a year-long suspension, which was a very interesting scenario on how that played out, played in a couple of games late in the season. Obviously, he'll be ready in the spring as well. And then Marvin Mims is, obviously one of the best freshmen in the country last year at the wide receiver position. So you got those 3 guys who are probably going to be your starters going into the year. Certainly, there will be some battles through spring and fall. But at this point, you got to think that those are the starters. Austin Stogner comes back at the tight end position. Again, he had a really good year in his redshirt freshman year. Struggled a little bit towards the middle of the season, again, with some injuries. He had he had an injury in the Oklahoma State game, had him sidelined for a few games, came back late. So Theo Weiss is another guy who played a lot last year, tied with Marvin Mims for the team lead in touchdown receptions. He'll be a factor as well. You can't really forget about Drake Stoops. He's a guy that has, obviously the lineage from his father at Oklahoma, but played a lot last year, game-winning touchdown reception against Texas in the Red River Shootout. He'll get an opportunity, not fast, but probably the best route runner on the team. So it'll be interesting to see. But the talent is set up, if they can avoid injuries this year, the talent is set up to be more what Oklahoma fans have seen in the past in terms of that overall wide receiver production.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Weiss and Mims led the team in receiving with 37 catches each. Mims caught 9 touchdowns, Weiss 4. And, Stoops had 2 touchdowns in that game winner against Texas. And these incoming guys, 3 rated in the top 20. Mario Williams out of Florida, 4th rated wide receiver. Cody Jackson, 17th in the nation out of Texas. And Maryland's Jalil Farouk, 21st rated wide receiver. And then you mentioned Billy Bowman. I didn't know where to place him, but you're letting us know he's going to be a wide receiver. He was listed at that athlete category, number 2 in the country.
Yeah, I think so. Riley hasn't really committed to the receiver position, but it looks like that's probably where he's going to at least start for Oklahoma right now. Certainly we'll get into the defensive side, but he'll at some point. But he played a little bit both ways, cornerback and wide receiver. Skill set seems to be just to get on the field quicker, really from a specialist or a wide receiver position. So yeah, Oklahoma's got a lot of talent, and I think the big part of for Billy Bowman and Mario Williams is they're here in the spring. Farouk is not going to be here until the fall. So Cody Jackson is there as well. Cody Jackson, he might end up being kind of one of the forgotten guys, even from us just talking about that now. There's not been a lot of not a lot of fanfare over him, just in terms of just maybe Bowman and Mario Williams have overshadowed him just a bit, but it'll be interesting to see if he's able to make it in that mix. But like I said, we've got, Oklahoma's got 8 or 9 guys that really have an opportunity to make a move and really play a lot, because, Riley likes to shuffle those wide receivers in and out a lot overall, just to get, different matchups and different sets. So it'll be interesting how that manifests itself. And we really didn't talk a whole lot about, Oklahoma's H-back position, which is Mikey Henderson and Jeremiah Hall. Henderson's probably one of the fan favorites coming out of last year. Didn't get a lot of touches. Look for him to get a little bit more touches from that H-back, fullback position. Oklahoma could also, move Stogner out wide and kind of move him into a tight end hybrid position, either with his hand on the ground or out wide. So, a lot of weapons that Oklahoma has the ability to get out in space, and it'll be interesting to see how Riley is able to, keep all those guys happy and play in different sets and different situations.
9 carries for Mikey Henderson, 12 catches out of the backfield, or that H-back position, a couple touchdowns total, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. All right, folks, please like the video, share the videos out on social media. You enjoy them, other people will as well. So please share the Oklahoma content and anything else. And it's Jason Ray from Last Word on College Football, so follow him on over there as well. Jason, we appreciate you stopping by. I want to remind everyone we will be cranking out these videos every week, and specifically leading into spring practice, breaking down every position for the Sooners, and people are hyped for this Oklahoma team in 2021.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, hype is very overrated in spring, because there's so many things that can happen, between now and then. But, off the cuff, looking at articles, watching, some of the incoming players that they have, some of the returning players, it looks like this could be the best roster, maybe not necessarily the best team as of yet. That remains to be seen, but the best roster that they have perhaps had since 2003, when they made it to the national championship game against LSU that year, and then the next year, obviously, against USC. So it looks like they have the opportunity. They're going to have, you got to think that they will have the hype coming into the season, just from a preseason perspective. I got to think they're no worse than 4, maybe 3. You have to almost assume that you're going to have Alabama and Clemson 1-2 in some kind of capacity. I mean, Clemson probably has the strongest returning quarterback in terms of, I know he's not returning, but he played some last year, certainly. You got Alabama with Bryce Young. Not sure exactly who Ohio State's going to have, from a quarterback position. So you got to think that Oklahoma's probably in the 3 to 4 range, coming into the season. So, a lot more excitement just from a roster perspective. And I think, and we'll get to this in future videos, but the offense is there. It's been there. It's been consistent. I think the excitement is more on the defensive side. I think people around Norman really think that Oklahoma has a defense, certainly in 2020, but even more so in 2021. They will have the defense to be able to compete for a national championship, not necessarily something that's just going to hold them back like this has happened in previous years.
For the first time in 50 years, Ohio State is not bringing back a player who threw a pass last year. So they have absolutely zero experience. They're still going to be ranked in the top 5 in the preseason. They've got like a 3-man battle between 4 and 5 stars, but no experience. All right, Jason Ray, Last Word on College Football. Jason, we always appreciate the time.
All right, great, Mark. Thanks for having me on.